So, Gita, welcome to PCL Live. It was so nice to have you here because the last time we did a live, I really enjoyed your comments and wanted you back here because of your great expertise. So, why don't you take a moment now and just introduce yourself to our audience real quick? Let us know a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into some questions.
Absolutely, Sharon. Thank you so much for having me here. Hello, everyone, whoever is joining the show. I am Gita Poudel, currently working as a HR and Compliance Director for Maganti IT Resources LLC. We are a solution provider and staff augmentation company based out in Waterbury, Connecticut. And I have been with this firm for almost 12 years. And talking about my background, my main focus is into human resources. And while doing that work, I'm also working on site as a freelancer where I tend to support all C-suite executives to build their personal branding. And
Mhm.
I have written few books, and one of the book is about AI governance for HR. It's a guidebook for all human resources as well as other professional who can gain some knowledge about how to use AI ethically and mindfully. And other than that, I do have a compliance background. I am certified paralegal as well, so I tend to ensure I'm up to date with the ongoing laws, rules, regulations. And I do love writing, and I have my own YouTube channels where I have been posting few informative videos about leadership, employee engagement, and few about AI transformation as well. So great to be here. Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Love to have you here. And anyone that's joining us, we ask that you put your name or your city in the comments. Let's say hello so we can say hello to you. Um, and if you're watching this and it's after, I like to always remind everyone, if you're watching this and it's after 12:30 Eastern on Wednesday, you are going to be team replay. Okay, so if you're watching since after 12:30 Eastern, it's your team replay. Um, you know, Gita, in my work, I work with CEOs and their emerging leaders. I work with them to help them with strategy, culture, developing the leadership bench, leadership strength. I'm also almost like a CEO advisor as well. I've worked as a CEO myself for years, and I sometimes take on that role. It's not what they usually hire me for. They hire me to help them with their, communication issues, culture issues, some strategic issues, leadership development. But then ultimately, I end up being more like a CEO advisor in many cases. And we've been talking a lot about AI, me and my clients. Some clients initially are resistant, but now more and more clients are open to it. So I really wanted to have this conversation because, as you and I were talking about in the green room, in 2026, for example, we see AI rapidly, just it's like it's morphing. Chat GPT, for example, Chat GPT work launched desktop 2 weeks ago maybe, and then right now it's already merged into the regular Chat GPT. So I wanted to jump right in. Thank you guys, Savan and Ryan and Jason and Brittany from Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you for being here. We're going to jump right in, and you can feel free to ask questions as we go along. Okay, so my first question to you, Gita, is everyone is talking about AI tools, but very few are talking about leadership. What do you believe is the biggest misconception executives have about AI right now?
Great question, Sharon. Yeah, AI is evolving, and initially, when everybody was talking about AI, few people were in a panic mode because news were coming where everybody was saying people will be replaced because AI is coming. So the proper communication was not given in a transparent manner, I would say, because yes, AI is evolving, AI is coming, but it can replace people who are not even using AI to make their work more automated, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and so coming to leadership, yes, AI is coming. Leadership skill that a person needs to have, of course, still needs to be there because um, empathy, the human judgment are few things that even AI cannot replace.
Right, right. Right, I agree.
Yeah.
And when the fear about humans being, you work in HR, so the fear about humans being replaced, is that a real fear? As as we see AI's rapid, movements, right? 2023, we heard about AI, and 2026, it's like it's everywhere, right? It's are you? Is there a fear, as you're in the HR department, of humans being replaced, as we see companies downsizing because AI has made them so much more efficient? Is there a real fear, let's say, over the next 2 to 5 years, of, you know, a reduced workforce?
Hmm. Fear in the sense, let's say we as an organization, if we want to implement AI tools, if a proper communication is done with employees, like why we want to enhance those tools in the organization, then of course the fear will never be there, because only if we start introducing AI tools stating that now we want to reduce workforce, but the clarity is not given, then fear will be there. And still, of course, fear is there. As you know, I tend to talk to many other professionals, especially fresh graduates, or you know other HR professionals too. Some fear will be there, but how to overcome from that fear, that is something nobody is talking about. So it's all about you enhance your skill, learn certain tools where you can make your manual work automated, as I said before, and be competitive enough so that no matter what happens in coming days, you are so strong enough using those AI tools that nobody can replace you. But
Mm,
again, one thing we have to make sure is, while using those tools, you are still managing your empathy or your fear judgment.
right, right.
So don't 100% rely on AI. So once we understand that, I believe the fear that has been going in the market can be reduced. So proper education should be given to the audience.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of learning. So I think that's, we're evolving so rapidly. You've worked across multiple countries and industries. What have you observed about the organizations that are integrating AI well without damaging their culture? Because, yeah, I work a lot, like I said, with company culture. And for those who are integrating AI, how are they integrating that without damaging the culture? What's your observation?
The good organization, basically what they are doing is, I mean, one of the example I'll give for my own organization too. So when we wanted to bring some AI tool, we had a one-on-one session with the team member, like why we want to use particular tool in particular department or work. And yes, certain workforce, even if you are reducing because of AI, the proper information should be given, and then the proper judgment has to be there, so that you are not damaging your own company culture
Hmm.
while also implementing the AI tool in the organization. So they are using it ethically, mindfully, with the proper communication, without damaging the culture. That's what I would say.
I think if leaders are listening, you keep saying the word communication, something that I really push a lot in my coaching with leaders.
Mhm.
Communicate, communicate, clarity, communicate, communicate. And what you're saying, okay, we're going to have to implement AI, no matter who you are, even if you're a holdout, eventually you're going to have to implement AI in some part of your business, whatever, it doesn't matter what kind of business you're doing. But what you're saying, Gita, from the HR perspective, and I would say from the leadership perspective, if you communicate the why, properly, it won't necessarily kill the culture. So no, this is assuming you already have a good culture from the start. So if you already have a good culture, which is usually built on good communication anyway, and you're implementing AI, if you're communicating the why, what's it going to do, how is it going to make things better, it shouldn't affect your culture that much. Now, for those people who you have to let go, that's another story. That's for another LinkedIn live, because I want to know what companies, is not this live, but what are organizations doing for those people who they have to let go because of AI. All right. So you talked about this a little bit before, but you said many people. So my question is about emotional intelligence. Many people assume AI would reduce the need for emotional intelligence. Instead, we hear the opposite. Why is emotional intelligence becoming even more valuable? in this AI age?
It is being valuable. It will continue to be valuable, Sharon, because AI is, it's all technology. It's a tool. How can a tool feel your feeling like human being can feel, right? So when we are having a conversation, let's say even one example would be taking an interview with a candidate, a person taking an interview versus a machine taking. How can
Hmm.
a machine judge a person whether the person is capable or not, right? That is also one of the reason you might have seen there are a lot of laws being implemented, especially in Colorado, Illinois, New Jersey, Texas, even in Connecticut, that if you are using those AI tool to even
Hmm.
interview those resources, you have to indicate and inform upfront that you will be using AI tool. So you have to prove if any audit comes, like on what basis you thought the person is right or the person is not the right fit, right? So of course AI is never ever going to replace that judgment, like how
Right.
you have that emotional feeling. So that is some of the that is one of the major skill I would say that nobody can replace. And being in leadership team too, if any leaders are afraid, like now AI is being introduced to my company, what will happen to my role, what I would recommend is start
Mhm.
working well in your soft skill, like
Yes.
adaptability, right? Communication skill, how you want to control your emotions when certain situations are going on, how you want to make that proper judgment so that you are not being biased, so you have to regret later. So those are few skills. So of course AI is never going to replace emotional intelligence.
I'm so glad you touched on that point, and I really want to just repeat that point for for everyone, especially because this page, I call it purpose centered leadership because I really gear it towards people in the leadership space, right? And as you said, it cannot replace the soft skills. AI cannot replace the soft skills of empathy and judgment, and it just can't. And so double down on those soft skills. I really like that you said that. I think we have a question here, but before I bring the question, I just really wanted to underscore that. Let me just say this. For those of you who use AI, I use AI a lot. Don't mistake when AI say to you, "Hi Gita, I hope you're having a good day today." Or I have a ministry as well as this is my leadership business. I also have a ministry. So my AI will say things like, "I'm praying for you." Okay, we know the AI is not really praying for me. It's not a person. And when the AI say to you, "I'm thinking about you," and you're a great person, you're a wonderful person, it's a machine that is not going to replace a real person saying to you, "I'm thinking about you," or "I'm praying for you," or "You're a great person." Right now, I think there's a lawsuit going on now because the AI allegedly told someone to kill themselves or encourage them into a suicide.
Hmm.
The AI is just a technical machine. And so the skill sets, the leaders got to double down on, as Gisa just said, and I've said over and over again, the communication skills, the soft skills. Someone asked me, "Is AI going to replace you as a coach, as an executive leadership coach?" I said, "AI can answer certain questions for my clients, but the way how I work with my clients is so highly customized, and there's so much discernment and judgment needed on my end and on their end that AI can't replace that." And so I just wanted to underscore that point, and I'm glad you made it. Let me just see, there's a question here. Do you think leaders are so focused on the perceived risk of AI that they're overlooking its long-term impact on employee performance, productivity, and business growth? It's a good question. I'll let you go first, and I'll chime in after.
Overlooking its long-term impact of, I would say yes, because if you are using AI platform to do performance evaluation, even though you as a person are handling your team and you score their ability and 100% rely on it, of course, you are taking a huge risk, I would say, because even as I said earlier, a lot of new rules, regulations are coming. So are you really abide by those regulations, right? How can you let a machine judge a person's credibility, because you are the one handling that day-to-day activities with that candidate? When you have to do behavioral assessment of course machine cannot give a proper judgment. So definitely you will be putting yourself at risk. Yes, you can use AI ethically, mindfully, as I always say. Then at the end, you as a person have to make that final judgment and make sure you thoroughly review the data that you are getting from AI, and so that tomorrow you don't have to regret, or you have to go through lawsuit or other complaints. So definitely yes.
And I would just say also as a add on to that, um, you know, one of this person is also asking, right? Sometimes leaders, yeah, they are focused on the perceived risk because yes, because there are risks indeed. There are risks. And yes, there was an initial, I would say, almost a wholesale rejection of AI initially. Now it's not so much. Are they overlooking its long-term impact on employee performance, productivity, and business growth? I think, and I don't know your name, LinkedIn user, I think that more and more leaders are getting to the place where they are seeing the the positive side of AI, right? The positive side on employee performance, productivity. Yes, AI is definitely shortening certain tasks that are administrative. So yes, if embraced and used well, AI will make your organization a lot more productive. And as you become more productive, you are going to grow. So I think there is a settling down, to so to speak, on what the risks of AI are. I mean, there are definitely risks. We hear some AI experts, but we also know there are a tremendous amount of benefits as well. Okay, so okay, let's see. There was another person. Prompting has become a very important subject to be included in curriculum going forward. I agree. Um, I agree. What do you think about that, Gita? I remember there was a time when prompt engineering and prompt engineers were getting all these huge amounts of money. I think that's probably going to be the same thing too. And as Jason says here, it should be an important subject to include in curriculum going forward. What do you think about that?
No, I agree with Jason. Prompting can be included, but again, we always have to make it. I mean, as a human being, right? At the end, doesn't matter what kind of prompt engineers or agentic AI you are using to automate your work. At the end, there should always be a human touch in any kind of work that we are doing, so that it brings more value. And as you said, Sharon, earlier, automating thing for business growth so that the speed is there, yes, it's needed in today's world as technology is evolving. But again, at the meantime, of course, human involvement, human touch, human judgment will always play a significant role to bring that value for whatever we're doing.
I agree, Gita. Thank you for making that point. I think we should all just pause here for really for just to think about that. We like to automate, and I think we're getting a little bit spoiled with the automation because it's just easy, but it begins to feel like not you to a great degree, right? And everyone knows everyone's using AI, but you're right. We need to slow down a little bit and still put the human touch in there. Brittany, I'm gonna put your comment up here, but what is the best way to overcome this? If you could clarify what this is, because we've probably moved on beyond your point, that'd be great. So we'll put you back in here. Okay, so all right, a couple more questions here for you. Um, one trend I'm seeing is that leadership is becoming less about having all the answers and more about asking better questions. How do you think AI changes executive decision making? Or how do you think AI is changing that executive decision making? Let me just explain to you why I mentioned about the trend I'm seeing.
Mhm.
The trend I'm seeing, and I think it makes sense, is that, we all know that top down leadership, it went out of the window years ago, right? Or decades ago, but people still try to do that. And what the trend I'm seeing is that there's more need for a collaborative leadership decision, right? Where it's not just lip service, but really getting the right people at the table. If you're a CEO, getting the COO, the CFO, and some of your emerging leaders at the table to think through decisions. And I think the reason why that is smart is that the CEO may not be the smartest person in the room when it comes to AI.
Mhm.
And so, CEO, if you're a CEO, you're watching and you're isolating yourself and just or insulating yourself from with these decisions, you're missing out on someone on your team like a Gita, who in her company, she's an HR person. You need that brain, in your decision making. So the question again is, how do you think AI changes executive decision making?
Changes in decision making, yes, let's say, it also depends on what kind of prompt you are using if you want to get answer for certain questions, because the better the prompt is, the better the answer will be. But again, it's always about how you see that response and whether that response is really making sense to implement it for the plan that you want to execute, right? And
Mhm.
as you said, Sharon, I mean, it's not always about answering well, but it's always about asking a better question if you want a better response. So it is same thing with AI too. When you are using AI, better the prompt, the better the response. And one thing I tell to my team, even to some of the client we work with, don't rely on only one AI tool. Let's say you are
Mhm.
doing a research on certain topic and you want to have the accurate data. And one example I'll give you, you are using for suppose Claude to find that data. So try to rerun that data with few other tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, or few other tools, and then see if it is perfectly matching with what you initially received. And
Right.
at the end, then you make a judgment
Mm.
how you want to utilize it, and never copy the content as is and put it in whatever document you are writing for, right? Take the content, but you have to use your own brain to emphasize it. That way, you are not losing your creativity. So that when you are in a meeting, if somebody asks you a question about the document you are presenting, you should be in a position to answer what you have written too. Because if you are completely relying, then it's not going to even help you in the long run.
That is a really powerful and valuable statement because, you're right. And I'm just going to say sometimes I'm guilty. No, I tend to look at my stuff, but I could see the temptation of not looking at it, right?
Mhm.
Um, but because I do so much highly individualized and, customized coaching, I really have to look at the data. I really
Mhm.
have to do the work. But I can see it. But when we all get correspondence from others, right? Now we know this is AI, this is AI. It's the dashes, it's the telltale signs, right? It's the superfluous language,
Right.
because it was not edited. So because we just took it and we just sent it. And I just want to say again, whoever is watching that, here's Gita, and she's written three books on AI and HR and so forth. And what she's saying is like, listen, don't lose yourself in the ease of using AI, right? Look at the content. And you said if you're in a boardroom and you've made a presentation and it's all AI driven, and now you're being asked a question about what you've written and you've not really eyeballed it and put yourself and your spin in it, you can't really answer. And even if the document is 80% AI, 80% AI not touched, right? And you put 20% of yourself in there. If you're asked a question about your document or about your presentation in a boardroom setting, at least you have the 20% to lean in on and answer as if you're someone smart. And that's, so be mindful of that. So I think, okay, so this was Brittany. She said, um, let me put her back up here. She says, "Do you think leaders are so focused?" No, not that one.
Already answered already.
This one. The original question asked, "Do you think leaders are so focused?" Okay, she wanted to know, how do you overcome this, right? How do you overcome? How do you overcome? How do you overcome that that impact? I guess if you're a leader, I think one of the things that Gita said earlier, and I keep reinforcing, is communication. Everything is going to be communication. There's, if you're implementing AI, get buy-in. Not that you're going to ask permission, but get buy-in. Let everyone be a part of that implementation. Obviously, if you're a leader and you're going to implement AI in certain aspects of your company, and you're going to have to lay off, let's say, 20% of the workforce, you want to do that in a way that's human, empathetic. And for the 80% who remain, remember they're still humans and they're going to observe how you laid up the other 20%. And if you lay them off in a way that was cold and unfeeling, the 80%, they won't have your back because they'll know tomorrow is going to be for them. So in everything, communicate and do not lose your empathy. Okay. Someone says, Adele said, is that it seems that data is easier to access for best decision making with tools such as ChatGPT. It is. It is. What do you have to say about that, Gita?
No, absolutely. ChatGPT was the one tool that everybody was using initially, and now various other tools are there in the market, right? So one thing you have to understand is, even though you are using ChatGPT, as I said earlier, rerun that data with 2 to 3 other AI tools to have that accuracy.
Yeah.
So not only ChatGPT, there are other tools too. You give the
Yeah.
prompt what you're looking for, then the tool will automatically create a data for you. But it's up to you, like how you want to take the process further.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple more questions. I know we have another 5 or so minutes to go. I have a couple more questions for you, Gita. Emerging leaders are entering organizations that have never known a workplace without AI, right? What should companies be teaching them now that wasn't necessary 10 years ago? When you think about that, again, I remember where I was sitting when my husband said to me, "Gosh, I can't believe you won't believe this. I was at Panera." Is what he said to me. I was at Panera, and this lady was showing us a tool that just she just this that just came out, and it can write a business plan. I'm like, huh? What do you mean write a business plan? And it was Chat GPT, 1.0, and that was just 2023, right? And now my mind is blown how much AI has integrated itself in our community. So there are going to be emerging leaders who their whole leadership life has been AI. They've been in the AI sphere. What should companies be teaching them now that wasn't necessary 10 years ago?
Now, because everybody is like running the rat race, I would say AI, AI. Even to respond to a simple email, they will be using AI because they want things to happen faster, right?
Right.
So, of course, few things that now is becoming very important is adaptability. I would say one of them is like soft skills, right?
Yeah.
Humanity, the proper judgment, clarity, communication. Those skills have become very important nowadays because those are the skills that will take us really further in our leadership role more
Mm.
than AI. So we have to balance that, I would say, because yeah, if you have been using completely AI, now it's time for you to think about your own creativity, think
Right.
about how you can do differently without using AI. Yeah, AI can be like your go-to friend or machine or a tool that can automate some of your work. But again, you should not forget your ground where you came from. So what your role is, and especially like as we spoke earlier to performance evaluation, right? If you are only using AI tool to do the evaluation and then hand over the report to the employee without even having a thorough review whether it made the right judgment, then you are impacting somebody's career, because
Yeah.
that person's career, that person's future depends on that report, whether the person is going to get promoted or whether the person is going to get pay hike, right? So how you want to be that right leader who makes a right judgment without 100% depending on AI. So
Yeah.
that is something we have to teach to today's emerging leaders.
These things were assumed before, that people would have these soft skills, right? Coming up in leadership. But it's really important point that you're making, that so we have these emerging leaders or these newer leaders, they're AI brained, right? Which is great. And they might be efficient, they may be great prompt engineers, they may be all of very technical, but in a company culture situation, there's going to be problems if they don't have those soft skills. Like I said, my work is I work with CEOs and their emerging leaders. And one of the things that I coach on is those leadership skills, those soft skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, because all of these things is what's going to help create that culture. Strategy is great, and that's what I work with the CEOs, with their strategies and their direction. But the soft skills, the leadership skills, the communication skills, the listening skills, how to give developmental feedback, the AI can't do that. The AI can't do that. And so, again, if you are a leader and you're watching and you are investing in your emerging leaders, this is, as Gita said, one of the things you have to make sure that they're knowing how to do is be empathetic, communicate effectively, communicate, properly. These soft skills are what they're going to need so that if you want to maintain a great culture in your organization. I'll just put this one up right here. This comment says, my son just graduated college and he had to sign an agreement his freshman year that he would not use ChatGPT or any other AI tool to help him. The professors would run all work through a website to make sure they were not using AI. Yeah, that is the world that we live in now. That is the world that we live in now. And, almost every correspondence you get is going to be somehow AI driven, these nowadays. I will just, so let me end when with this, that I'd like you to give a practical advice. Many executives today listening today are thinking, where do I begin? If you could recommend 3 practical steps leaders should take over the next 6 months, what would they be? And when I say practical steps, right, and where do I begin, etc., where do I begin in terms of, okay, I want to integrate AI and I have people and I already have AI and I'm having cultural issues. What are 3, in this world of AI coming at us so fast, right? Again, like you mentioned Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, and all these different choices. A leader listening, where do they begin? What are 3 practical steps from both the AI perspective and HR perspective, from your perspective? And I'll close with my perspective.
Sure, sure. So let's say you are a leader and you want to do a business, for example. First, you have to ask yourself what kind of business you want to do, and then audit whether that business is really going to, meet the value or the mission that you are having 10 years down the line, and be consistent, because consistency is something that plays a significant role if you really want to be successful or get the value, right? So audit, come up with a plan, and be consistent. So continue to work on it. And if it comes to the tool, you have to understand, because different tool has different features. Let's say you want to create a very nice presentation, Canva is there where you can create. But if you want to write a nice article and have some great references, Claude is one among them, right? So first you have to understand what tool is going to do what, and then select one tool and learn it, because you have to be very good at it, then touching several tools. And consistency, as I say, continuously leverage skills, learn how to use that particular tool, and maybe a few months or a few weeks down the line, you will understand, where you stand, and then continue things further. So it's never too late to start. As I, recently even posted one video in LinkedIn, that we have to remind ourselves that it's never too late to start anything in life, whether you want to study, or you want to start a new career, or you want to start a business, or you want to even travel. Never give excuses saying that, I am old enough, or I don't have time. Maybe I already missed that opportunity. No, it's never too late. So not tomorrow, but today, and not even today, right now. So if you are listening, that you have been thinking for a long time, you want to create your own organization, just right now, think about the name, register the company, start working, and everything will follow on its own.
I have one. I thought it was going to be my last question, but I have one last question. Do you think it's important that the CEO, the top person, is familiar with AI? do you think it's important? Like, I believe this is, and I'll just say from my perspective, I believe it's important that as the CEO and the leader, you need to have a, definitely a working knowledge of AI. I don't think it's okay in this era for a CEO to be hands off and to delegate the AI work downstream fully. I'm not saying that the CEO has to be an expert, but for the CEO to maintain that vision and that direction, they have to also know what the trends are in AI. They have to keep up. I think it's important for CEOs to know what is trending so that they can plan. You know, how are you as a CEO going to plan for your organization if you aren't aware of what AI is doing and creating? If you delegate that to someone else and that someone else leaves, you're in a pretty tough spot. So I do want I would encourage CEOs to become AI literate. It's not okay to be AI illiterate at this point on your journey or in this AI workforce, right? In this AI workplace. I mean, you have to become literate so that you can be a bit more in the know. And yes, if you don't have an AI expert on your team, that may be a good hire to have an AI expert, someone who's definitely on top of that, who reports directly to you, the CEO or the leader, so you can keep a step ahead, you know, of what's happening, or keep at least be in step. And I'll just run through a couple of these last things before we go. What safety measures would you recommend to ensure the effective and secure use of AI-powered productivity tools? I don't know if that's something you want to answer or can answer.
Absolutely. Yeah,
You
yeah,
want to?
absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
Safety measures, in the sense, the first thing you have to do is audit what kind of tools each team is using, and for what purpose, right? So that tracking must be there. And I would say once a month, do that audit, and try to create some kind of security measures in the laptops that the teams are using. And also educate them that when you are using these AI powered productivity tools, make sure you are not using sensitive data just to gather some information. So be very mindful, because once you use that sensitive data and put that in AI tool, that means the data is going to go there, no matter like whether we remove it, it is still going to sit there in the cloud. So it's very hard to trace it, right? So you have to educate the team to use it properly. And when I say sensitive data, don't put person's date of birth, don't put person's passport, don't put person's some educational documents that contains their name and other critical information if you want to do some search. So that's how, I mean, you have to make sure you are using it in a very proper way or ethical way, I would say.
Yeah, and I'll bring you back. I want to bring it back just for security and AI, if you don't mind, and another topic, because
Sure.
there are some concerns about, you know, when you're doing research on people, it could be a potential client or prospect. You are putting in their names in AI, and so we'll come back. We'll talk about that another time. But Ty, yes, AI makes leaders good, better. Definitely, definitely, definitely. And I just want to end and just thank you so much, Gita, for giving us your time today. And like I said, I want to bring you back for maybe a part 2 in a couple of weeks as we talk about some security and some other stuff with AI. But please follow Gita. She is on this thread in the introduction. I will also put her name again for you to follow her, because she talks about AI and HR on her page. She also does her own videos. So it would be great if you follow her. And I would just say, hey, if you are a leader and you have a team of emerging leaders, my role, my passion is to develop leaders and their emerging leaders, right? To help them to build a stronger bench, develop these leadership skills that we talked about today, Gita and I talked about today, you know, this empathy and communication, you know, corporate culture. And also, of course, I help leaders with their strategies, and I'm their advisor, so to speak. So thank you so much, Gita. And again, follow Gita if for more AI content. You're all very welcome. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, couple weeks, take care.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.